This segment has been brought to you by CBS.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. A lot coming out of Grand Bahama in recent weeks, from concerns from Port Lucaya Marketplace, the vendors, to rate increases by the Grand Bahama Power Company. And there's a lot to get to because we're going to put those concerns to the Minister of Grand Bahama, Ginger Moxey. Good evening to you, Minister Moxey, and welcome to Beyond the Headlines. Of course, Minister Moxey is also Member of Parliament for Pineridge. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Shanique, and thank you for having me. My
pleasure, absolutely. Let's just get right in. Almost from the announcement of your being named Minister of Grand Bahama, there seemed to be pushback and a narrative that Ginger Moxey is not the right woman for the job. How do you suppose, and why do you suppose this view developed from certain people, or perhaps a faction of persons in Grand Bahama?
Okay, so the election was September 16th, and I was appointed Minister for Grand Bahama September 22nd. On your show, on the 27th of September, we had a gentleman that claimed to be speaking on behalf of the residents of Grand Bahama, and he indicated at that time, before we had even officially taken office, that I was not the right person for that job and that I should not be there. You actually said that 50% of Grand Bahama are totally against this appointment. So I think at that time, you started to create this narrative that only, I would say, Beyond the Headlines believe is the case.
Well, wow. Beyond the Headlines is pushing that narrative,
yes,
and me in
absolutely.
particular.
Yes.
I went with what the gentleman said and also what was said afterward, but we are not going to dwell on that. You were saying no, you enjoy the support of the majority of Grand Bahamians, and they support you as Minister of Grand Bahama, and guess what? Let's continue. Yes. And I certainly don't want to push a narrative against you. I'm just here to present some views, right? So let's move on.
Yes.
There are some voices in Grand Bahama that are louder than others. When it comes to the way you're managing the ministry or what you should or should not be doing. For example, Frederick McAlpine, Darren Cooper are among them, who are often challenging you to step it up in one way or another. Do you feel it's because you're a woman that you're being challenged or singled out in this manner to step it up, to give it more, to address issues and the other things that is being said?
I'm not sure if it's much so that I'm a woman. I'm thinking that perhaps it's because that was my opponent in the recent justice.
It's politics.
Absolutely. And also, Darren Cooper, the good gentleman, would have been his campaign coordinator, campaign general. And so it kind of ties in, right? So right after I was appointed, the attacks began. And so I will leave that right there because actually I came here to talk about what's in store for Grand Bahama.
And I'm going to give you that wonderful opportunity. You know what? And thank you for responding to these questions. I know they can be a bit uncomfortable, but thank you for responding. The Grand Bahama Port Authority is seen by many business owners in particular on the island of Grand Bahama as the elephant in the room, an entity that's hindering the growth and progress of the island. Some feel a meeting with all stakeholders at one table could get more accomplished. For example, the government, Port Authority, and businesses. Do you feel this is necessary in order for Grand Bahama, the overall economy and success thereof, to move forward and to achieve greater success? Or are you approaching it and thinking about it in a different way?
I actually agree. I believe wholeheartedly in collaboration. And that's why we formed a unit in the Ministry for Grand Bahama called CoLab, Partnerships for Development. With respect to the Grand Bahama Port Authority, we have been meeting from day one. We've had many high-level discussions on the growth and development of Grand Bahama Island. We've had meetings with executives, various meetings with executives of the Port Authority throughout, my ministry. And so the relationship with the Port Authority is intact. Actually, a mandate of my ministry is relations with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. So that isn't an issue. I think what you're getting at is this call to get in one room together, and the Port Authority and the government have been meeting. We have also been meeting with the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce. So when it comes to an individual representing, who say they represent the business community, trying to get us in a room together, I don't think that that's really necessary when we're having our own dialogue.
But the thought behind that is that, you know what, why not bring the three sides together so that there's an understanding?
But who's the three sides? The three sides
that the business community has used, as we said,
right?
The Port Authority,
yes,
and the government.
And who's the business community?
The Chamber of Commerce. I mean,
okay.
I guess they're the official voice.
Okay. So
you're saying all the noise in the market, you all sit down, shut up, because you don't represent nobody. That's what you're saying, basically.
Who do you represent?
Well, Charlotte, just ain't come to play tonight.
Nothing.
I tell you, go ahead. Ginger Moxey say, let it be known. She doing what she got to do, and she's the minister.
Listen here, we are working. We are busy working on behalf of the people, getting things
done. So then what do you say to your detractors? And mind you don't pay them no mind, you know, but sometimes you just got to set it straight for a minute. Because the voices are loud and they're loud from different quarters. And I'm sure some of it comes to your doorstep. What do you say?
The voices are loud and a lot of it is political. You know, there are various agendas going on here.
How about some who say they supported you and you're not doing anything?
Oh, well, I don't know what they're talking about because from day one, like I said, we've hit the ground running. We're dealing with a number of development issues where Grand Lucayan, for example, we are this close to having a sale for Grand Lucayan, which should a new buyer, a new owner should be announced early May.
But now hold on, the DPM, Minister of Tourism, said the end of this month.
Well, yeah, so we'll select the owner, and so we should announce it. I would say the first week in May. So
how is that sale of the Grand Lucayan? You are expecting that, how are you expecting that to begin this, put the wheels in motion for an economy that's been stagnant, not since you took office, I mean, for decades, truly. How is that expected to bring some sort of change and get some things moving?
You know, that first of all, the bad deal that was done with the Grand Lucayan, that has cost, you know, the taxpayers a lot. And so we are looking at a much better deal for Grand Bahama. It's going to have at least 1,000 jobs, 750 to 1,000 jobs, and it's going to bode well for the entire Port Lucayan area. But it's so critical because it's the major, you know, hotel property on the island.
Yes.
And so we're looking forward to that, as well as the redevelopment of the airport.
But we're going to get to that. I don't want to jump around. I want to ask
well, you know, we have so much going on. I want to get it all in.
You do have many things going on, not just in Freeport, but in the wider Grand Bahama, and of which you are the entire minister for. But what are you most proud of? Since some say you're doing nothing. You've done nothing.
Who's some?
You know the detractors. I'm not calling their names. Those names I'm calling. I talking about from the social media attacks to other people in other areas, yes? And so, you know, you're not doing anything, you're selective in what you're doing and who you're doing it for, etc. What are you most proud of to date as Minister of Grand Bahama?
To date, there's so many things, but I think I'm most proud of giving that person an opportunity that impacts their life, because there are so many people who've been going through so much, you know, the Dorian, the pandemic, and the like. But the other day we did a distribution of checks to vendors in the Port Lucayan marketplace, and then other areas on Grand Bahama Island. And
the vendors, though, I wanna bring this up, and the vendors, while extremely grateful, because I had some of them on immediately after that announcement, and they did sing your praises. And then I don't know if it was last week or week before, some other vendors came on and talk about a boardwalk and the fact that they feel now snubbed because other, not them, but new vendors have been appointed to the boardwalk, and those vendors, once the tourists get there, that'll turn the tourists around.
No vendors have been appointed. You know, the thing is, we are in the process of redeveloping that area to ensure that tourists would want to come there. Right now, it's really unattractive. There's a lot of work that needs to be done with the restrooms and all that, and that's the stuff that we're working on. But nothing has been done there yet. We always listen to the voice of the people. But there will be, I would say, opportunities there because you will have to have,
some sort of activity.
Yeah, you have to have some activities. You also have to have the beach chairs and the like. And so there are going to be some opportunities there, but it wouldn't take away from what we're doing
in the marketplace.
In the marketplace. Like, we are actually bringing people to the marketplace now. We are creating this Port Lukai experience with entertainers, which means that we're actually hiring more of our creatives. And so to me, it's an all-around thing. It isn't just for one set.
Yeah.
It will impact so many others, and we are really trying to improve the tourism product all around. So we're creating all these different vendor opportunities throughout the island, not just Port Lukai area, but in the Farmers Market area, at the Arts and Crafts Center, at the Fishing Hole Road Bridge, in 8 Mile Rock, where there's the fish fry. We just want to enhance the experience because in our discussions with the cruise lines, of course, we're trying to get additional cruise calls, and the product is always, a discussion.
The product is lagging, yeah.
The product is, well, I believe we have some excellent product, but, there's improvement is always, is almost always there. And so we are working to improve that. We are working, again, to create opportunities. So I'm excited because in the midst of, the jobs that we're creating, in the midst of all the construction opportunities that will be happening as a result of, the Carnival Cruise Port, the airport redevelopment, and all that, we will have some amazing entrepreneurial opportunities.
The spin-off and the mushrooming of it all.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That is the real impact that you'll begin to experience. And you know what, too, when you talk about the plans that you have, and you have others that come and visit, for example, like Caribbean Development Bank, and they came and they heard of some of the plans in the orange economy, the creative industry, and they want to offer grants towards these things because they believe in it. They see the potential of it. So I'm really excited about everything that's happening, and not too concerned about, the talk. The talk.
The talk.
You ain't paying attention to the talk. You stay focused. So what about the International Bazaar? That I understand is an eyesore. There have been several fires. What is the plan there in terms of either bulldozing that property, reinvigorating that property to make that a part also of the attraction?
You're right on it, The bazaar, I believe, has an amazing opportunity. It has such history that goes with it. And you might be aware that there was a road there, West Atlantic, where that was closed off when the Royal Oasis was purchased by Harcourt Development. That road we want to reopen to create an experience there. And we're in discussions right now with Harcourt Development, and also working on an amazing project that I don't want to say too much about, but where plans are in motion for that. And
so it's like there's a ton that's
yes,
happening.
There's a lot that's happening.
Ton that's going on. But why have you been so misunderstood or misrepresented, Ginger Moxey?
And the thing about it, I am actually a PR person. But
you're a PR person.
Do you believe that, right?
Why have you not been PRing yourself?
But you know what? I've been so busy working, just getting it done. So all of that stuff that's been said, I really don't focus on that. I focus on, okay, what do we have to do next? I've been focused on restructuring, really, the Ministry for Grand Bahama that I saw as a ministry of administration, because, 43% of the budget went to paying the electrical bills for other ministries, and then 82% of the budget just went to administrative costs. I believe that the Ministry for Grand Bahama should be a ministry that gets things done. It should be project-based. So I'm focused on ensuring that we are doing the things that makes Grand Bahama excel, that moves it forward. And we have a lot of exciting projects on the drawing board. And I'm looking right here at the same blueprint for change. See that?
That's what you are seeking to carry out.
Yeah, because actually the Prime Minister calls me the Minister of the Blueprint, right? So I've been instrumental in the development of it. But for Grand Bahama Island, our vision is for Grand Bahama to be the maritime and logistics capital of the
Well,
Bahamas.
let's talk
Events and entertainment.
Yes.
And also the home of innovation. So all
let's
of
talk-
those
yeah,
amazing
let's-
projects we want happening on Grand Bahama.
On Grand
Island.
Bahama, let's talk
Yes.
about maybe one or two of them that are in motion and where things are beginning to take shape.
Okay, so
in terms of what you just mentioned.
you are, I believe, aware of the Carnival Cruise Port development.
Yes.
That we will be breaking ground on that.
When?
The first, second week in February. It's right there. It's
Okay.
right there, so we're close. And that's going to provide about 1,000 jobs right there. There's something going on right now. It's called Beautiful Grand Bahama, just the name of it, right? And it's an initiative that I've created that's a holistic approach to getting us where we need to go. And in early January, I started something called Grand Bahama Clean, and it employed 100 individuals for a short period of time. But what it did, you have these people who haven't worked so long, and that $250 a week meant so much to them. So what we've done, there's a 12-week program now, Beautiful Grand Bahama, but it's holistic. It isn't just a cleanup campaign. Mm-hmm. It's more about the projects that we're doing. So we're utilizing their skills to get it done. So the beach, the boardwalk that you talked about at the beach, we're going to have them, those that plaster, they're going to plaster. We have artists in there that are going to do some murals. So we're making it, a holistic exercise.
I'll tell you one person.
One thing,
yes.
Can I say this?
Mm-hmm.
One thing though, after the 12 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens?
What happens?
And so of course, there are going to be all these other jobs coming up, construction jobs and all that. But what I recognize is so many of them cannot get a job because of that record for marijuana.
A little joint, a little,
for that record.
A few ounces.
And then you have
something.
some who, there's a lady who went to primary school with me, and when I campaigned and went to her house, she can't vote. And I knew her all my life, And so right now, her husband isn't working. She can't work legally. And so these are the people right now who we're trying to find a way to really assist them, because we want them to be able to get the jobs afterwards. So when they're done, they can move on to the next job because they can't legal, because right now they're getting paid through, a subcontractor. Yeah. But what happens next? And so this is the thing. We're looking at each individual, one-on-one, and trying to see how we can assist them. And that's what makes me happy.
Well, that's good.
Yes,
and I'm happy
impacting lives.
It's good to hear from you and hear you address and speak up to stuff, and even say, Shanique, no, Shanique, that what was said on your show, and that is something that you said.
I wanted to tell you that for a while. You know why? You didn't call me.
I
you
just
did
got your
not
number.
Call me.
I just got your number
I'm
last week.
That's it.
Yeah. Just call.
Just
well,
call.
I'm happy that I
Just
called
call.
and you agreed to this interview, because it's important to hear all sides. All sides.
Yeah,
and speaking of all sides, when this cleanup campaign that I understand is very needed in Grand Bahama, extremely dilapidated buildings, and I guess overrun properties, etc. I was told that the Port Authority should be doing that and not your ministry.
But see, look at the difference, right? You just said cleanup campaign. I said it's a project-based initiative. So it's based on our projects, the Ministry for Grand Bahama projects, which one of them is Restoration Village. Yeah. It is where, yes, a building is going to be demolished, and the people who are living in that dilapidated building, they'll move into these 13 homes that we are
Which is super, because I understand even the International Bazaar people were kind of living there. So then it's all with a motive in mind.
Yes, everything is project-based, and it's in collaboration with others. So the Ministry for Grand Bahama, one of the mandates given by the Prime Minister is to partner with NGOs, businesses, other government agencies, and the community at large to assist with the basic needs of residents and for the growth and development of Grand Bahama Island. That's where Collab came from. And so with that, we are doing some amazing things to impact lives. That's it, impacting lives.
That's the most important
thing.
thing.
So Ginger for the people?
Yeah.
That's
a real slogan. That ain't just something to get elected.
No, people know me as that.
Actually, I've heard that. I've heard that you have a reputation of having been active in the community well before your political, because you're new to politics, and so I understand before that you had that reputation.
I have that reputation. I had to stop saying, I'm not a politician. No, I'm not a politician, but I guess I am.
She said she remains Ginger for the people. Well, we will talk to her. We will talk to her some more about other projects on tap, including the international airport. What is the status update on that? More with Ginger Moxey. I tell you, she's answering the questions, setting things straight, and also telling some people sit small. More with Ginger Moxey on Beyond the Headlines right after this. Stay close. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. My special guest in the last segment and continuing in this segment is the Minister of Grand Bahama, Member of Parliament for Pineridge, Ginger Moxey. She's answering the tough questions. She's answering. By the way, have you heard people calling for your resignation?
You know what? I've only heard of that on Shanique's Beyond the Headline. That's the only time I've ever heard that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and so I'm wondering though, your source.
My source is
yes,
I don't make it up.
I'm sure you don't.
You hear people saying it,
they're
not me.
attracted to you though.
Not me. You hear people saying it. Someone even said, another person who's a regular on the show even said something to the effects of one of your other colleagues, a male, should be Minister of Grand Bahama. So it isn't me.
Agendas.
Agendas. Okay. Well, I'll tell him, stop with his agenda. Because he's said it more than once. Okay. And I'll set him straight on your behalf in terms of that. Well, I'll tell you, the government has committed to building a world-class airport, much needed. We know how it was destroyed. It continues to be flooded with hurricanes, but certainly Hurricane Dorian in 2019. Earlier this month, the Deputy Prime Minister Cooper announced that Phase 1 of the public-private partnership to maintain several airports, and of course, beginning with Grand Bahama's first, is certainly what the government's agenda is. Is there an update on the airport project?
Yes. You know, when we first came to office, it must have been in the first, I don't know if it's the first week, or maybe the second week, the Deputy Prime Minister and I visited the airport, and we actually walked up all of those flights, those steps at the control tower, because the elevator wasn't working, or still isn't working.
Yeah. And it's an old facility, eh?
It's been through so much. It's been through, you know, Francis and Jane and Dorian and Matthew prior to that. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the airport. Right now, like the DPM mentioned, we have put out the request for proposal, and that is expected, I think it's been extended to the 15th of May. So that should be in by then. But in the process, because we're going to build this world-class airport, but there's still work that needs to be done now.
Right.
And so the elevator has been ordered, generators have been ordered, and there's this supply chain issue right now that's caused some delays. Yeah. But we're expecting them soon, and so we're bringing some relief there. When you enter the airport today, you will still see some of these buildings that remind you of Dorian, and that's some of the things that we're addressing right now with having them torn down. Yeah. And so we are there, we are on it, we are focused, and we're going to have a world-class airport.
I believe you, because the Deputy Prime Minister was, of course, he is Minister of Aviation as well. He was on the show some time back, and he said basically exactly what you're saying in terms of immediately addressing the temporary needs of that area. Yes. And then, of course, the long term is the new airport. So, okay, fine.
And actually, the airport and I would say Grand Lucayan both would have like an 18-month build-out period. And so I think there'll be time together. There's also, even in the midst of what's going on at the airport, we're going to have some direct flights coming from Charlotte in November.
Okay. So more increased airlift.
Yes, we're working. We're working. And what I love about Charlotte is Grand Bahama now has a sister city relationship with Concord, North Carolina. That's like 5 minutes from Charlotte. And so I think it's going to be a natural fit to have visitors that visit Grand Bahama Island because it's their home away from home. They have a sister city with us.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, all of this is good news for Grand Bahama. It's deserving, and it's you know, people here say high time.
One thing I needed to correct.
Go ahead.
I mentioned the groundbreaking for the cruise port, Carnival Cruise Port. I didn't realize I said February, but I said February. It's actually May. It's next month.
Which is next month.
It's next month. It's right here.
That is
it's
super.
Right
so
here.
The Carnival Cruise Ports will have a groundbreaking next month.
Yes.
Which area is this happening?
This is in East Lucaya. Right. So it's the area where University of the Bahamas is, but more south of that. And so, yeah.
And what is that expected to do?
Oh, that's expected to really...
in terms of the economy?
It's going to inject a lot into the economy. It's going to do well for just bringing passengers to the island. But what we're focused on also is community-based tourism. So we want to ensure that those that come actually come out of the cruise port, at least a percentage of it, and get into the local community. And so we're working on all those new experiences that causes the guests to want
to venture out.
Exactly.
Because recently, even here in New Providence, and when I say recently, just in a handful of years before the pandemic, that was the issue. Guests not coming off the cruise ships anymore. So sounds very good.
Yes.
Ginger Moxey, it sounds like you know what you're all about. You know what you're doing, and you have a plan to get it to build it out and get it done.
You know what I say? I say it's knowing how to connect the dots, because, you know, I've been in that private environment, in the dealing with the regulators, dealing with government, dealing with nonprofit, dealing with just destination management and all that. And I think being able to connect all these different things to ensure that our island is headed in the right direction, I think that's what is needed, and being able to collaborate with others to make it happen. We've not been doing a good job of that, and that's what I'm trying to do now. Just bring all the players together. We've had recent meetings with the industrial sector, the heads of these organizations, and that's what they want. They want more collaboration. They want to hear more about policies and stuff before it actually happens.
Right.
And that's what's
almost like wanting to have a heads up. And the industrial sector, that's who's been carrying Grand Bahama for so long, even in the midst of all of the challenges that we've faced. And so we're working closely with them. They're coming on board, and everyone wants to partner with my ministry on this new unit called CoLab to assist with doing things in the community to help those in need, but also in ensuring that their business can thrive in order for them to be able to help. Speaking of doing things in the community to help those in need, how can the Grand Bahama Power Company figure this is the time to increase rates? That is an issue not just for business owners, but for people who are hurting and waiting on these economic opportunities to manifest, to be able to just begin getting their lives in motion again. I know something the government was trying, obviously, to talk down, but where does that stand?
I think that's one of the first things that I met upon coming to office, because I believe that the requests would have or should have been made prior to the election, based on this 3-year regulatory rate adjustment that the Port Authority as regulators had implemented with the power company. But right away I indicated that we should not at that time or this time be looking at any rate adjustment, considering what the residents have gone through, still experiencing. It's not the time. And at that time I called for compassionate leadership so that would not happen. But the Port Authority is the regulator, and it did happen. And so that's where we are now. And so that's why I would say you have to be able to really just fight for the people, fight for the people, do what it takes to try to get those that are in authority to listen to the cry of the people. And we continue to do that. As a government, we continue to call on the the heart of those in leadership where people are concerned, because Grand Bahama and our people
needs all the heart it can get. Remember the other person who said, "Where's your heart?" Remember that?
Oh my.
Yeah, Ginger. Let's move right. So we see in today's one of the local dailies today, the Grand Bahama shipyard is still eyeing expansion despite some setbacks, and it's forecasted that the expansion will give the island an additional economic boost. And so there are tons obviously set to take shape and happen and unfold on the island. What can you tell us about the setbacks that they're faced with at the moment?
Well, there have been setbacks with, just the supply chain and all that. Yeah. So there's been some setbacks, but the project, when it is completed, is going to, add so much value to Grand Bahama Island. We have been having ongoing discussions with Royal Caribbean Cruise Line and Carnival Cruise Line, who are partners with the shipyard. And so what I am excited about really is the apprenticeship program for training of our young people to enter, fields in the shipyard. And so for me, I'm most excited about the opportunities that Grand Bahamians will get from it.
Yes, absolutely. And so I thank you very much for just sort of clearing the air and addressing some issues and also answering some tough questions. I know some of them were pretty tough. Of course, you answered about the power situation, which have people quite concerned. Looking at people also talk about, though I know this is quite difficult because it's something that's been in place for decades, revisiting and how can you modernize this Hawksbill Creek agreement that would make living and doing business in Grand Bahama so much more easy for everyone involved. In 2016, I think it started in 2014, perhaps, there was the review of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. And from that, in 2016, the Grand Bahama Investments Incentive Act was implemented. And a memorandum of understanding was done with the Grand Bahama Port Authority and some of its group of companies and the government of the Bahamas. And there were certain deliverables that should have been carried out. I think that right there was it was to me the beginning of a deeper look into the Hawksbill Creek Agreement and moving forward. And I would say that even today, that is one of the discussion points with our administration and the Grand Bahama Port Authority. So it's always, it's one of those things that we are particularly dealing with. Yeah. I will leave it like that. I will leave it like that, yeah. But we are addressing that issue. Yeah. Obviously, it sounds like unemployment is expected to go to zero on the island of Grand Bahama, as these things roll out. But where does unemployment stand? And then the people who still very much need the assistance, considering inflation, considering all the stuff that's happening, not just in Grand Bahama, around the country and worldwide, but focused on Grand Bahama, where does unemployment stand? And then those people who need it having access to social service benefits, etc.
Okay, so unemployment is still an issue on the island. When the other islands experienced the pandemic, we had barely made it out of Dorian. And when the pandemic happened, we were locked down for like 2 months, Grand Bahama. So we had it worse than I think anyone else. Unemployment today is still an issue because many businesses were closed. Yeah. A lot of the small businesses, like I mentioned, the industrial sector held it together and saved many of the jobs, but a lot of the jobs were lost then. Many have not returned. I know, I heard. But we are, with all of the projects that we have on the drawing board, I believe that unemployment we'll put a dent in it. So I'm really excited about that. But what I always encourage also is entrepreneurship. I believe that there's so many opportunities in that, and especially in the tourism industry and so we've created also a grant called Empower Grand Bahama for the orange economy and for those who are interested in creating tourism products. And so it's a micro grant, $5,000, but I believe that so much can get done with it. So these are for like the vendors in the farmers market. We're going to do this Hawksville Cultural Center. We're going to have we're going to do some vendor opportunities at the Grandmama Arts and Crafts Center. So as we improve the tourism product, we're going to be creating entrepreneurs along the way. At the Fishing Hole Road Bridge, that's going to become an experience. And so I believe, for one, because I've always been involved in the creative industry, the orange economy, that our people can make money from what they love to do.
But they know what's around them.
Exactly. And so I'm always encouraging those that I know, that I love, my constituents, the best constituents in the Bahamas.
I was going to ask you about that constituency.
Pineridge, just always encouraging them to venture into entrepreneurship because, when things like a pandemic or hurricane or whatever, anything happens, you want to have that thing that you can fall back on. Absolutely. And so what better thing than it being something that you actually love to do. So I love helping people. I love just trying to, impact lives, make a difference. And so because I love it, it doesn't feel like a job. Yeah. So that's who I am. I've always been that way. And I will continue to be that and to fight for the people of Grand Bahama, and in particular, the beautiful people of Pineridge, who I love.
I want to ask you, and this isn't a free ad, but anything particular on top for Pineridge? I understand it's one of those sort of, challenged areas?
Yes. It is one of the challenged areas, and actually it's one of the areas that got flooded a lot. Many of the communities got flooded during Dorian, so there's a lot of relief that is required. But again, some of the most resilient people. And so we've been having, the business seminars. We've been trying to assist them with, opening and getting their business license and all that. We've been doing the various workshops on there's so many things going on in Pineridge.
So you have active programs
we have an office that is open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We have events nonstop. We're always doing these things where we're trying to improve the conditions of the people that live there. And so we're always accessible. We have something called Mother's Pantry where we're trying to make sure that no child goes to bed hungry. Just a lot. I wish I had some of the stuff in front of me, but we've really just been engaged in the community. I'm a minister, and my ministry is the only ministry outside of New Providence. So I have to be here in Nassau often.
Right.
But when I'm home, I'm there with the people. I'm in the community. I'm,
assisting to make things happen.
Absolutely. And ensuring that I'm creating opportunities for the people of Pineridge. It's my people.
Well, Ginger Moxey, it's been great hearing your thoughts, hearing you explain and kind of also shut down some things. Thank you very much for being open, being honest, answering questions, and also painting the way forward for Grand Bahama, the entire island of Grand Bahama. That's a tall order.
Yes.
Yeah. Any final closing words?
It's me. I mean, I'm here. I love Grand Bahama. I love Pineridge, and I'm here just to get the job done. I'm about action, not a bag of mouth. Action.
Thank you very much, Minister
Thank
Ginger
you.
Moxey, the Minister
you.
for Grand Bahama and Member of Parliament for Pine Ridge in Grand Bahama. Thank you very much. Thank you for putting up with everything tonight. So thank you very much. That was quite impressive
Thank you.
to answer that. But listen, I thank you all also for tuning